Hiya folks, Piglet here. I thought it was about time I do another Piglet's chats because I apologise, it's been a very, very long time since I've done one. We've been incredibly busy. My role's changed slightly within the NYMR. I'm now the Director of Engineering, so that unfortunately I am sort of in an office a bit more now, but I still like to get my overalls on, come out, see what the lads are doing and lasses in the workshop. And I thought we'd have a tour around the MPD, see what's going on, what engines are under restoration, what engines are being having the winter maintenance carried out. There's a lot of work going on. We're coming to the end of February. We've got a month to go before we start running services again on the 4th of April. So there's a lot to do. The team's very, very busy carrying out all this work, and the clock's ticking, and we've got to have them ready for service for you guys to come and see us. So we'll have a wander around the sheds. We'll look at the projects we've got going. And if you've got any questions, you can always ask it in the comments. So our major restoration project in the workshops at the moment is Black 5 44806. And as you can see, it's well on the way with its restoration. This has been a complete rebuild, right down. Every last nut and bolt has been out, checked. Everything's been checked for cracks. All the pipework's been annealed and checked. So it's been a proper big job in the last 12 months, this, and it's really starting to come together now. The wheels are currently away, having the tyres turned, and once they're back, we can put the chassis back on the wheels and it'll start to look like a proper steam engine again. So there's a lot of work going on in here with volunteers and staff, and it's going to be fabulous when it's finished. You can't beat a Black 5. The boiler's currently away at contractors. That's progressing really well as well, and we're expecting that back later this year in 2022, and then that'll be reunited with the chassis. The tender needs some final finishing. That's got a brand new tender tank on it. So when this is completed, hopefully early 2023, this is going to be a really nice bit of kit, and it's going to be an engine you're going to see working regularly on the NYMR over the next 10 years. We're also going to get it on the network as well to run to Whitby, so it'll be able to go out down to the seaside. So I'm really looking forward to this, and credit to the people who are restoring this, because it is a top-notch job, and we're all looking forward to getting 44806 back into steam again. So here we are at the mainframes of 44806. They've all been completely stripped down, right back down to bare metal, crack tested, every rivet, any bolts that need replacing has all been done. It's then been repainted and it looks like new. The next job is to put the bars through and do all the axle boxes, align them, because everything is fairly precise on a steam engine, so we need to make sure that all the tolerances are right, that the axle box is the right fit inside the guide, and it's also parallel and everything lines up. So there's quite a bit of alignment. We use like piano wire that we put through the cylinders, and we align everything up really precisely down to thousandths of an inch. You think like your hair is probably on your head about maybe 3 or 4 thou thick. You know, we're working to tolerances less than that, 1 or 2 thous when we're aligning these things up. So it's quite a precise job, but we like to get it right, because the more effort you put into getting this engine set up correctly, the better it will perform and the less wear you will get. So it is important to get it right. So here we are at the cylinders of 44806. This is where all that power is produced. We use the steam to turn it into motion to pull our trains along. As you can see, this cylinder is quite large. It's about 18.5 inches, and we need to bore this out because we've started to get a step inside the cylinder, and that's no good. So this cylinder is going to be bored out with a big bar that goes through it and a tool that comes around and cuts the cast iron and makes it parallel and makes it a nice fit. Because we're doing that and we're making this cylinder bigger, we have to make new piston heads, because there only needs to be a 1/16 clearance between the piston head. That's 1/2 mil for people who do metric. 1/2 mil gap between the piston head and the bore. So, and then the rings take up the rest. So we need to make sure that that's all nice and smooth and lined. So we'll be doing that. I think the valve bores are all right from what the fitters are telling me. So the valve bores won't need, they'll just need decoking and cleaning up. But in the valve here, this essentially tells which side of the piston the steam needs to go. So there's 2 valves in here that control the admission of steam into the piston. So there are two valves that move inside there. So yeah, we'll get all this tidied up. It all gets crack tested, new piston heads, new rings. It'll be like new when it's done. So here we have 825, the S15 locomotive, and that's up here in the wheel drop shed. So a bit like the other locomotives, it's having its tyres turned this winter. So we use the wheel drop to remove the wheels out the bottom of the loco, and then we send them away for tyre turning. Not too complicated a job, just involves a lot of labour stripping the engine, but the actual wheel drop is superb. It makes it what would otherwise be quite a difficult job really, really easy. In fact, we can take a couple of wheel sets out of an engine quite happily in a day, and then they go away, get turned, come back, and we put them back in again. So it's a really handy bit of kit, this. I think it was made in 1914. We've made some quite significant improvements to it this year, in 2022, and it's now oil hydraulic, 4 cylinders underneath, much more steadier and precise in operation than it was previously. Previously it had one big water ram that operated in the middle as designed in 1914, but now a lot of development work's been done and it's now on 4 modern hydraulics, and it's a far better piece of kit. The lads are loving it and it makes it safe and easy to operate. So like I say, S15's in here, valve and piston exam, rod bushes, all the usual kind of work we do in the winter. Any moving parts that have worn, we take apart and replace, all done in-house. So yeah, again, this will be back in service in 2022. Can't beat an S15, good old workhorse. Yeah, looking forward to getting it back. And what we'll do is we'll go down to the bottom of the wheel drop and I'll show you where the wheels come out at the bottom. So here we are in the wheel drop down below, and this is where we lower the wheels out of a locomotive. That big yellow table up there is picked up by this one down here, lower one. So it rises up, picks that up, we take some locks out, and then we lower that yellow table down, and whatever we've got above it comes down with it. So ideally we park an engine, put the wheel sets in the middle, disconnect all the spring gear, horn stays, take everything off, and then we carefully lower the wheel set out, and then we can pull that trolley out of here. There's tracks down the side. We pull that trolley out of here and we park them on the rails over there, and then we can strip the axle boxes off. Quite simple really, but obviously still quite an involved job. Everything's big and heavy, so you've got to be super careful with what you're doing, but it does make life a lot easier. So yeah, we like our wheel drop, gets plenty of use. So here we have the axle boxes and underkeeps off the rear driving axle of the S15. It's a good example of it all neatly laid out here on a pallet to see how it works. So these are the main axle boxes that go up and down in the guides, in the frames. That's your bronze bearing there, and you can see the white metal. So the axle runs through here and rotates, and the wheel sits on the other side. And then we have the underkeep, which sits, that goes in that slot there and sits on the underside of the axle, and that's your Armstrong oiler pad. So that Armstrong oiler pad wicks the oil up out this bronze box, the underkeep, and as it soaks the oil up, capillary action, a bit like a plant does, sucking water out the ground, it sucks the oil out the bottom of the box and it wets this pad here. And then as the axle rotates in and rubs on this underkeep, it puts a small amount of oil onto the journal, onto the axle, which then is picked up, it goes round, stays on the axle for some time, and then as it drips off, it goes back down in the box again, and this sort of cycle repeats. And the beauty with the pad is it sort of filters the oil, so any crap stays in the bottom of the box, but the rest of it is just pure oil that's taken up through the pad, capillary action, and it keeps it warm. So if you ever have a locomotive having a hot box, that's where this oiling process has failed, and you have excess friction which generates heat, and then the first thing it tends to do is melt the white metal, because it's a bit like solder, it melts at a relatively low temperature. So we need to make sure that these are kept in good order, clean. We do change the oil every 28 days, and we keep these pads in good order, and that makes sure that that bearing is nicely lubricated, because we don't want it running hot, because if we do, we've got to take it all to bits. We don't want to do that. So yeah, they're the axle boxes. Great big things they are on an S15. Yeah, spot on. So here we have Eric Treacy, as you can see, all together and complete. This has got its boiler test next week, hot exam. So the inspector, a bit like Lucy, will come in, check it all over, make sure all the safety systems work, make sure it's in good order and no leaks, and then he'll sign it off, and then we've got another 14-month ticket. So there is still some jobs to do on it, but fundamentally it's together, and this will be an engine that you'll be seeing at the start of the season. Regular performer Eric, you can't beat a Black 5. You've seen this is what 44806 should look like when we've got it finished. It's in the works at the moment. So Eric will be back out and pulling trains in 2022. Here we have 76079 Pocket Rocket. Again, a lot of winter maintenance been going on. A lot of rod bushes, bearings, new valve rings. A lot of work going on. Kind of standard stuff really, but still a fair amount. We haven't had to send this one away for tyre turning this winter. They're all good. Boiler's okay, that had a lot of work last year. So it's general sort of maintenance over the winter. And we'll get this one back together again, and this is another engine that will start the season. So here we have 65894. We've turned it into a convertible. It'd be quite nice out on a summer's day, wouldn't it? It'd be a bit cooler in the cab. But no, in seriousness, we've taken the cab off because we found a couple of broken stairs at annual examination. So to get to them, we had to take the cab off. They've been replaced and tooled in. So now we're just waiting for a little bit warmer weather, and we'll hydraulically test the boiler. And that means we fill it full of water and then we pressurise it just to make sure that the repair's good. And it's much safer to do that underwater, because if there's any leaks or anything were to go wrong, because water doesn't compress, there's no energy there, and it wouldn't be an explosion. So we always do that. Any repairs like that, we do it. But to do that, we need the temperature up at least above 7 degrees, ideally above 10. We don't want it too cold when we're stressing the boiler, when we're putting pressure in it. So we're just waiting for a little bit warmer weather. It's only a couple of degrees outside, so we want to make sure that, you know, we're in an ambient temperature that's much better than that. And we check it with a laser gun as well to make sure that it's okay before we do that. Once that's done, cab will go back on. I don't think we'll get away with running it convertible all year. And then we'll reattach the tender. There's some motion work going on it that the North Eastern Locomotive Preservation Group are doing. And then the J27 will be back out for the 2022 season. So here we have 92134 9F, absolute beast of an engine. Winter maintenance, a fair bit of it is completed now, and the boiler test with the boiler inspector has been completed. So it has a 12-month boiler ticket, or 14 months as it lasts, but we say it's a year. This is almost ready to go, but we're about to change the tyres on it. So that's a massive job. We've got new tyres in stock, because steam engines, like your car, they do wear tyres out, and we have to replace them periodically, and it's a big job. So we're just umming and ahhing whether we do it before the start of the season, which means we might not get it for that first month of April, May, or do we see if we can eke it through till the end of the season and then do it? Because the last thing I want to do when we're meant to be running trains is pull an engine apart. And these are the difficult decisions sometimes. The tyres have come in from Germany. They're in stock now, ready. We've just got to look, we've got a month left. Do we want to change them? Do we not? We're just kind of not going to make that decision in the next week or so. We've got other engines that are having tyres turned at the moment, so there's a lot of work going on with the wheel drop. So we just want to make sure we get the timing right. But you'll certainly see 92134 pulling our heaviest trains this year. Absolutely fabulous locomotive. And it was an honour to get the opportunity to help finish this loco off and get it into service. You know, and for the NYMR, really good tool, you know. Big hills, big trains, perfect. I wish I had a fleet of these. So here we have 80136, standard tank. A lot of work going on this winter. We've had all of the wheels out, and they've all been sent away for tyre turning. They've come back, we use our wheel drop to take them out. They've come back, they've been refitted, and now the reassembly of the locomotive continues. There's a lot, they've got the back covers off, all the motion slide bars are down, crossheads, all the rods are off. So there's a lot of work to put this back together again. We do ultrasonic testing of the axles when we've had the tyres turned, so we make sure that there's no damage, and we do that every 3 years anyway to make sure that the axles are in good order. And that's quite a clever process. They send like sound waves into the axle, and the guy with his display can actually work out and check if there's any fractures in the metal or anything. So it's a good way of checking something without actually wrecking it or destroying it. So we get a company out that do that, and they check that they're in good order. So these tyres have been turned, and on this wheel the tyre is this steel ring round the outside of the main wheel. That's a cast steel wheel, but in this is an actual steel tyre that's shrunk on the outside. And what we tend to find is when we run the engines, we get, over time, we get a slight hollowing in the centre of the tread, and we also get wear on the flange. Now, when its proper size is 28mm thick, and we can go down to 24mm. Once we're getting near 24mm, we then need to get the tyres turned, and that also takes a hollowing out. So there's a lathe tool that comes in, and it actually recuts the profile on the tyre. And what that does over time is it reduces the thickness of the tyre. We start at about 78mm, I think it is, and we can come down to 38mm thick. That's the minimum. Once you're at that, it's game over and you've got to put a new tyre on. So every year we're constantly, and actually throughout the year, we're measuring these tyres for wear. We're measuring the flange thickness, we're measuring the hollowing, and we're also making measurements of the overall thickness as well, so that we know what state they're in, and we send them away for tyre turning when they're ready. You wouldn't drive your car on the road with worn out tyres and the wrong tread. It's exactly the same with a steam engine, just a bit more expensive. So here we are up on top of Hartland's boiler, 34101. This is a major restoration project, as you can see. And this locomotive's boiler has a huge amount of work. And this is a brand new firebox that's been manufactured, and we're currently in the final stages of installing it into the outer wrapper of the boiler, and then it's going to all be welded in at the foundation ring level, and then we've got thousands of stays to put in it, and the stay bolts hold the two boiler plates securely apart from one another, and then it's all surrounded in water. So the boiler's upside down at the moment, it goes the other way up. So we're actually seeing that area there is the size of the fire grate in Hartland. It's absolutely huge. So there's a lot of welding, a lot of drilling, a lot of tapping holes that we've got to do. The team are going to get on with that, but it's coming together nicely now. Big job, a lot of steel, a lot of welding. But yeah, it's coming together nicely. It's an opportunity to see the size of the grate. It's not often you can see it like this, the size of the fire. So yeah, it's coming together nicely. And then once that's done, we'll put tubes in the boiler and we'll be away. But there's a lot of stays to fit in that, thousands of them. It's going to keep the boiler busy for a long time.